Therefore, indeed, I send you prophets, wise men, and scribes.
There is a woman MP who I saw. I see her dancing in the north. She was dancing in a yellow, I think it was a gomasia. I prayed over her because there's a sword hanging over her head. Then I saw a flag of the UK. Then I saw kind of a flash, and I saw May, Theresa May. She was standing behind a black lectern. You know a lectern? A speech table? A black lectern. And her face looked pallid, flushed and pale. The right-hand side of her hair seemed to be out of place. She looked shaken, and I knew she was in trouble. Then it is similar to the Arab Spring, a storm of sorts that is engineered by the evil one.
The protests have since escalated into broader demonstrations against Bashir's 3 decades of iron-fisted rule.
I could feel that behind the words he was saying the word usurpers, and that usurpers were being removed.
Time and again, the sovereign Lord God of heaven has spoken by the mouth of his prophet to nations and governments over their destinies. Do you hear what heaven is communicating to you through these fantastic signs and wonders?
France was carrying someone in their hands. I perceived who that person was. They not just said someone. And suddenly, it was like you're carrying a child, like in your hands. And then suddenly they let go of this person and they drop that person. Like you would drop a hot object. And like they dump. Now here, that's when I began to suspect. Because he said they dump it or him. And then he said, and it signals a change of directions or a change of the course of that nation.
Key points to note is that the prophecy mentions that this would be sudden.
And then suddenly they let go of this person.
What makes this sudden change in leadership even more peculiar is that Prime Minister Edouard Philippe was at the peak of his popularity among the French population, since he led what was considered a good response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Indeed, when he was dropped by President Macron, several political analysts indicated that the president was removing the prime minister, whose increased popularity he saw as a potential threat to his own political future. Key point number 2, the prophet of God repeatedly mentions a dropping.
And then suddenly they let go of this person and they drop that person, like you would drop a hot object.
This points to the fact that the change of the Prime Minister was not voluntary, but was imposed by his senior, President Macron. Key point number 3. The prophet of God specified that this would mark a change of direction.
And then he said, and it signals a change of directions or a change of the course of that nation.
The previous Prime Minister, Edouard Philippe, handed in his government's resignation to President Emmanuel Macron. Philippe's decision to stand down has paved the way for a reshuffle, which had been widely expected. President Macron had promised to chart a new course for the last 2 years of his term that will focus on efforts to relaunch the French economy.
Indeed, President Macron declared that this change of government was intended to bring a change to ideological priorities of his presidency. An obvious marker of this was the inclusion of more individuals from the old government of former President Nicolas Sarkozy, as well as the newly popular Ecology Party. All these changes have had analysts wondering what the future holds for President Macron's relatively young political party. But there is a throne above the palaces of men. There's a government of heaven above the governments of the nations. Blessed be the name of God forever and ever, for wisdom and might are his, and he changes the times and the seasons. He removes kings and sets up kings. This sentence is by the decree of the watchers, and the decision by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High rules in the kingdom of men, and gives it to whomever he will, and sets up over it the lowliest of men. The spirit of prophecy testifies of Jesus.